Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tirabana Chari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantharaj Shiman Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shishiguru and Shiguranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, General History, Chapter 3, Liberation from the Illusory Energy, text number 22. Tatra Bhagavatam Dharmam Shikshet Guru Atmadaivita Shikshet Guru Atmadaivata Amajajanubhrityai Jais Tusyet Atma Mado Tusyet Atma Mado Hari Tatra Bhagavatam Dharmam Shikshet Guru Atmadaivata Amajajanubhrityai Jas Tusyet Atmat Madho Hari Tatra Bhagavatam Dharmam Shikshit Guru Atmadaivata Amajajanuvrityai Jais Tusyet Atmat Madohari. Please chant. Tatra Bhagavatam Dharmam Shikshit Guru Atmadaivata Atmajajanuvrityai Jais Tusyet Atma Madohari. Tatra Bhagavatam Dharmam Shikshit Guru Atmadaivata Amajanu Tyajais Tusyet Atmat Madohari. Tatra Bhagavatam Dharmam Shikshit Guru Atmadaivata Amajajanuvrityai Jais Tusyet Atmat Madohari. Tatra Bhagavatam Dharmam Shikshit Guru Atmadaivata Amajajanuvrityai Jais Tusyet Atmat Madohari. Tatra, there, in the association of the spiritual master, Bhagavatam Dharmam, the science of devotional service, Shikshet, should learn, Guru Atma Daivataha, he for whom the spiritual master is his very life and worshipable deity, Amajaya, without deceit, Anubritya, by faithful service, Jai, by which devotional science to Syet can be satisfied, Atma, the Supreme Soul, Atmadha, who bestow his own self, Harihi, Lord Hari. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Accepting the bona fide spiritual master as one's life and soul and worshipable deity, the disciple should learn from him the process of pure devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, the soul of all souls, is inclined to give himself to his pure devotees. Therefore, the disciple should learn from the spiritual master to serve the Lord without duplicity and in such a faithful and favorable way that the Supreme Lord, being satisfied, will offer himself to that faithful disciple. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, the Lord's tendency to give himself to his pure devotee is demonstrated in the case of Bali Maharaj, to sacrifice his universal kingdom for the pleasure of Lord Vamanadev. Lord Vamana was so pleased by the selfless surrender of Bali Maharaj that the Lord became the doorman in the palace of Bali, who was reinstalled as a great leader in the universe. Srila Jiva Goswami comments that the spiritual master is to be considered the Atma, or the very life of the disciple. Since real life begins when one is initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, although one may experience many seemingly wonderful and important events in a dream, one's real life begins when he is wake up. Similarly, since the spiritual master gives birth to the disciple by awakening him to spiritual life, a bona fide disciple understands that his spiritual master is the very basis of his life. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the reservoir of all pleasure, and thus the Lord's giving himself to a pure devotee indicates that such devotee becomes immersed in the highest possible ecstasy. In this connection, there is the following Shruti mantra: Anadat Dhimani Bhutani Jayante. Quote, indeed, it is from the all blissful Supreme that all these creatures have come into being. End of quote. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has further pointed out that when the Lord bestows his own self upon the pure devotee, such a fortunate devotee can actually see the Lord, touch him, and directly engage in his service. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one should never consider one's spiritual master to be mundane or on an equal level with oneself. One should see the spiritual master as being always under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. One should never try to engage the spiritual master in one's personal service with the mentality of lording it over the spiritual master and obtaining through him some material gain. One who is actually advancing will become more and more eager to serve the spiritual master, and thus such a disciple experience the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Rupa Goswami has delineated four preliminary requisites for advancement for the sincere disciple. Guru padashrayas tashmat Krishna diksha dishikshanam brishabhena guru sheva shadu bharmanuvartanam. Quote, 1. Accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of the bona fide spiritual master. 2. Becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. 3. Obey the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. And 4. Following in the footsteps of great acharyas, teachers, under the direction of the spiritual master. End of quote. This is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.74. One who has executed these preliminary duties is qualified to relish Srimad Bhagavatam. When one actually hears the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam as it is, he becomes free from the desire for sense gratification and mental speculation, and is happy and satisfied in the service of Lord Krishna. Jashyam Bhai Srujamanayam Krishne Paramapurushe Bhaktir Utpadyate Punsham Shoka Moha Bhajapaha. Quote, by simply by giving oral reception to Srimad Bhagavatam, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text number 7. One should hear Srimad Bhagavatam from a bona fide spiritual master who can expertly engage the propensity for loving Krishna that arises from hearing the transcendental sound of the Bhagavatam. Such a transcendental authorized engagement is called Bhagavat Dharma. Within the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, there are many thousands of authorized engagements pertaining to the Society's missionary activities. And by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and performing such engagements, the Society's members feel relief from shoka, lamentation, moha, illusion, and bhaya, fear. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, those who have achieved a mature understanding of the transcendental sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam may adopt the order of Tridandi Sannyas, as described in the Hamsa Gita, the 13th chapter of this canto. And so-called Vaishnavas who whimsically neglects the strict control of the body, mind, and speech, cannot actually achieve shelter at the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Even if such a whimsical sense enjoyer makes a show of assuming the dress and danda of a Vaishnava sannyas, he will not obtain the desired result, love of Krishna. A bona fide Vaishnava should work earnestly to free himself from any tinge of sense gratification and mental speculation. And with a loving heart, he should carry out the orders of his bona fide spiritual master by always remembering the exalted position of the bona fide spiritual master. The disciple will achieve the shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Romapada Swami Iti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Shatarine Bancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. It's a very wonderful verse. I read it again. These are very famous verses, yesterday's and today's, that Prabhupada often quotes to describe the qualification of the bona fide spiritual master, yesterday verse, and the qualification of the sincere disciple, today's verse. Accepting the bona fide spiritual masters as one's life and soul and worshipable deity, the disciple should learn from him the process of pure devotional service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, the soul of all souls, is inclined to give himself to his pure devotee. Therefore, the disciple should learn from the spiritual master to serve the Lord without duplicity and in such a faithful and favorable way that the Supreme Lord, being satisfied, will offer himself to the faithful disciple. So the principle of this learning devotional service, pure devotional service from the spiritual master, but this phrase, Shikshet Guruat Madhaivata, then one should regard one spiritual master as one life and soul and worshipable deity. Is such an important principle. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he described that exact feeling the, when he comments on the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 2, in which Krishna explains to Arjuna that a devotee, the mentality of a devotee who is advancing or who is advanced in the process of Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, his intelligence is completely focused. Vyavyasyajatmika buddhi. So this principle of Vyavyasyajatmika buddhi, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur described as complete focus and absorption and dedication to the service of the instructions of the spiritual master. He described that his life and soul is the instruction of the spiritual master. I'm going to look for that and read it for you. It's a very significant, we learn by Srila Prabhupada's revelation that this was a pivotal inspiration for him as he, in his preparation to the translation of the Bhagavad Gita he was doing, composing the Bhagavad Gita as it is, with the vision of bringing that preaching to the Western speaking world, to the English speaking world. Srila Prabhupada read this commentary and immediately understood this was the instruction of a spiritual master was coming to the West. And that's when Srila Prabhupada made the step of and the determination to come to America. So after reading this verse, so it's an important verse. I'm gonna look for him. Just give me a second. The, the internet is not working properly. So anyway, I paraphrase it. You can read it on your own. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains it so beautifully and with so much feeling that there's nothing, here we go. There's nothing in his life but the instruction of a spiritual master. 2.5. It's worth the waiting. It's so beautiful. He says, resolute intelligence fixed in Bhakti Yoga is only one. The meaning of this is illustrated as follows. Quote, so this is him. My sadhana is to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, to remember and glorify Him as instructed by my Guru. That is also my goal, sadhya. It is my life's sustaining medicine, for I cannot give up the sadhana and the sadhya. This is most desirable object, my duty, and nothing else is my duty. Nothing else is desire, even in dreams. There may be happiness or sorrow. Samsara may be destroyed or may be not destroyed. That is no loss for me. Let there only be resolute intelligence fixed in pure bhakti. It is says, see here, hold on. Yeah, this is not what I remember reading, but maybe it's another comment. But anyway, the point is this, um, that one's life and soul is the instruction and my relationship with my spiritual master. And one should certainly see one's spiritual master as one's worshipable deity. So, and that devotional relationship is something that have to be cultivated and have to be there. And the other part that um, the Nava Yogendras explains to King Nimi is that one should learn from the spiritual master the signs of pure devotional service. And then it's going further that one should learn to serve the Lord without duplicity. And I think this is something um, quite important to go more in depth, to serve Krishna without duplicity. This element of duplicity, the term that is used is amayaya, amayaya nubritya jaish, that serving without duplicity. Duplicity, when we talk about duplicity, is the, the word amayaya. So without maya, amayaya, without maya. So what is maya? We understand maya as illusion. But an illusion is when you see something that is not. You know, it's actually a display. It doesn't really is what appears to be. That's what illusion means. That's what Maya, that's the definition of Maya. So this deception or this sort of the deception and duplicity are very much equated here. So the contrary of that, of deception and illusion, is honesty, straightforwardness. And this is the quality that is the quality of an advanced devotee. It is explained that is honesty and straightforwardness, not duplicity. Duplicity, in one sense, is when there's dishonesty and there is There's a front that appears to be in one way, but actually, when you go deeper, is not that way. So there's two things, and that is um, that is something that have to be learned and take into consideration that as conditioned souls, we bring one of the faults that we have is this fault of deception. There's four faults that are part of conditioned material life. One is imperfect senses. One is the propensity to cheat, so deception. One is what are the other two? Propensity to cheat, uh, being illusion, and making mistakes. So altogether, we see that the propensity is to have to deal with these propensities that are faulty. Under the shelter of the spiritual master, we become purified and we learn how to properly act and serve the Lord without those faults. So, therefore, it is so important to surrender to the spiritual master and take initiation. In the process of initiation, we are given the stage of bhajana kriya. We're given a process of sadhana, a process of hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. And through that process of sadhana, we receive instructions of how to properly do the sadhana in a way that one can start to gradually become purified from those faulty propensities. So, we have, as we become purified, we becoming purified of unwanted things, anartha nivritti, the cleansing of unwanted things, anartha. Anartha means unwanted. Artha means valuable. Anartha means no value. Things that have no value, things that are faulty. So we're becoming purified from that. And anarthas have different levels, gross level and subtle level. As devotees that are in the process of anartha nivriti, then we becoming purified of these both elements, both the gross and the subtle. But this purification happens gradually. In the beginning of devotional service, which is the first stage, Kanishta Adhikari, we are experiencing both things. We're experiencing the devotional desires and we're still dealing with the material condition. That material condition, through the process of sadhana, is becoming purified and becoming eliminated gradually. Nashta praesha badreshu. Gradually becoming eliminated. The gross unwanted things is what they call kama, krodha, and lobha. No, kama, krodha, and bhaya. Loss, anger, greed, and fear. These things are gross unwanted things that will become purified. But then there's some subtle ones that we have to become purified. And these are, the subtle ones are Puja, Loba, and Pratishta. Fame, adoration, and um, position or um, distinction, then type of thing. No? So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he singles out in one of them that he says is the most subtle, but is the most hideous and the most destructive for a practitioner, a sincere practitioner. Because we consider this, most of the devotees, we can say they're sincere, especially devotees who are trying very hard to serve Krishna, to serve Srila Prabhupada, to serve the spiritual master, and there's sincerity on that. But at the same time, you see devotees struggling with different material conditions. And for that devotee, for the sincere devotee, it's important to recognize what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta say, that um, is the most um, is the most terrible of all those conditions, and that is the pratishta asha, which is the desire for recognition. That's the most. That's the he explains that's a root. This desire for recognition is a root for duplicity. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, desire for recognition is the root of duplicity, and duplicity, especially for the bhakta, for the practitioner, for the sadhak, for sadhana bhakta, is the one that can actually undermine the whole process of anartha nivritti. And the fact is that if one is not mindful of this desire from recognition that leads to duplicitous and deceiving propensities, then one is inevitably going to be engaged in Vaishnava aparat. Inevitably, it's going to happen. So one have to be very, very careful of that. To counteract that, to counteract the natural propensity in the conditioned soul to desire to be recognized, is something that if we actually go if we are introspective, we can see that there's always some desire that we have to be recognized for what we do. Is one of those uh, um, sort of as very ingrained assumptions that we have in our mental makeup. It's something that we've been receiving since the time of birth, and actually while we are in this material world, that the desire to be accepted, to be recognized, to achieve something, and that people, and being able to enjoy that, the desire to be something that is admired and is accepted, is something, it's an aspiration that is there for a conditioned soul. And we have to be aware of that and how to avoid that aspiration derails me from the process of devotional service. What the great acharyas tell us is that aspiration could be dovetailed in the service of Guru and Krishna. We can aspire to actually please the Lord. The whole thing of Krishna consciousness is taking the I out of the center. So in reality, we're going to be seeing that am I doing this for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna? And I'm actually doing a service and being recognized by my Guru and by Krishna. How this recognition comes with Yasya Prasadam Bhagavat Prasadam, that by pleasing the spiritual master, one pleases Krishna. Sometimes we see also that when the devotees are pleased, then we understand Krishna is pleased. So my spiritual master often instruct me in my struggles in Krishna consciousness to look at my intentions. So always think of my intention. Am I doing so? This is always the question, especially when I find myself struggling or either not encouraged or upset or something like that, some negative emotion. One of the questions that I can ask to myself is, what's my intention? It's difficult to do class with this thing. No? Yeah. What can you do? It won't. So look at your intention. My spiritual master tells me, am I doing this for Krishna and Guru and Krishna for their pleasure? If I do it for their pleasure, then I will experience happiness. I will experience satisfaction. But if I'm doing for me, then there's the anxiety. There are certain anxieties that are there that are going to manifest. So, taking the me out of the center, that's one of the things that is important. So, since a very important part of learning devotional service from the spiritual master is to learn this process of serving without duplicity, I like to share with you some of the things of the teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta on this, because he emphasized that very much in his instructions to his followers. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he wrote um, this poem in which he instructs this. It's a song, it's in Bengali. Dushtamana tumi kishera Vaishnava. What kind of Vaishnava you are, mind? So he's talking to his mind. So the translation is like this. Oh, wicked mind, what kind of Vaishnava do you think you are? Your pretentious show of chanting Lord Hari's holy name in a solitary place is only for the sake of obtaining the false prestige of a worldly reputation. It's nothing but being pure hypocrisy. Such materialistic prestige is as disgusting as the stool of a hog. Do you not know that it is only a mere illusion cast by the potency of Maya? What is the value of contemplating day and night your plans for enjoying wealth and woman, all these things are only temporary. When you claim wealth as your own, it creates your ever increasing desires for material enjoyment. Your riches to be used for serving Madhava, the Lord of all wealth. Neither it is your proper place to indulge in lust for woman, whose only true proprietor is Lord Yadava. So, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta described pratishta as prestige, recognition, being established in the eyes of others, and asa, the desire and expectation. So together, the desire to be respected, glorified, or honored for one's devotion. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta called it the subtlest and most dangerous enemy of bhakti. The subtlest and the most dangerous enemy of bhakti. We we can sometimes see in ourselves and sometimes being able to see it in others that there is this aspiration for power or aspiration from respect and honor. And for that, you create a whole display of, of being in a prestigious or superior position. So as we advance in Krishna consciousness and we've been recognized by our sincere service, then you start to receive more and more responsibilities. And when you receive more and more responsibilities, when you have the capacity to manage and direct others, then you have to be very watchful. You may fall into this display or dishonest display of do as I said and know as I do. In other words, you're not example of what you preach. You may say, you have to do these activities of devotional service, but you don't do it yourself. So that type of position in which outwardly you show devotion, you chant, you preach, you serve, but inwardly your real motivation is different. It's for your own feeling of prestige and not necessarily for Krishna satisfaction. So this is what is described as duplicity. So it's all about me, and so my heart is saying me, but my mouth is saying Krishna, like that. No, this is impossible. Maybe we should finish. So some can you do? I don't think I can give class with this. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be possible to do a class like this. Maybe try this and see. Uh, you have the stick? Cool. Oh, that helps. A little better. Thanks, Vaishnava Prabhu. So, what should we do? Because it's something that we very easily can find ourselves struggling with because it's very subtle. I mean, we can deal with loss, we can deal with anger, we can deal with fear. These are things that we can do adjustments in our activities. And, we follow the regulated principles, we chant our rounds, we associate with devotees. But these are the subtle ones, are the most difficult ones to actually deal with. So what happens when we find ourselves struggling with the desire to be recognized, or maybe to have a platform to be able to do what we think we like to do, like that. Um, so these are things that are natural. And how should I avoid not falling into this space of creating a display, or being deceitful, or being duplicitous, being a hypocrite? So the principle that is being taught to us by Krishna's teaching and by the acharyas is that in the state of kanishta, we're not hypocrite if we acknowledge our struggles before Krishna and Guru. If we actually are aware that I'm struggling with this and I'm open with that, I'm not trying to create the hypocritical or duplicitous means to pretend to be something that I'm not, to pretend to be advanced when inwardly I have selfish motives. In the conditioned state, the expectation to be free from selfish motive is not realistic. We have selfish motive. But if I'm presenting myself, I'm pure, and I'm preaching to you like, I'm beyond this type of things, then that's not good. That's duplicitous. That's being hypocritical. That's the whole thing of do as I say, know as I do, like that. So rather, it's not hypocritical. It's actually appropriate that we go through devotional service and we are able to accept and to present and to be able to acknowledge our own struggles in front of Krishna and our Guru, and yes, at least in front of Krishna and Guru. You don't have to display your dirty laundry to every single person you meet, but but one is very conscientious, is not creating, trying to present themselves for something that I'm not. So to being to have faults and to be a kanishta is not condemned. So it's understood that we're in the process of dealing with these things. So this is something that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and our acharyas explain, the things that we do, and I finish here because it's impossible. What should we do as we're learning how to serve Krishna without duplicity? So things that we have to do to counteract this propensity for cheating. Well, the first one explains we accept a bona fide spiritual master. We receive initiation too. We say serve Guru with faith and follows the footsteps of our spiritual master. We practice according to our adhikar and to our position, but we continue to follow and to aspire to go higher. So Srila Rupa Goswami explains, the importance of actually practicing sadhana with dedication and seriousness. We should be transparent. Um, we should be open with senior Vaishnavas. Duplicity shrinks in the light of honest association. We take shelter of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Lord Chaitanya did not demand immediate purity. He gave a gradual process. Kirtanat eva Krishnasya. Simply keep chanting. The encouragement from our Acharya, Srila Rupa Goswami, success comes by enthusiasm, patience, confidence, following rules, avoiding bad association, and practicing in the company of devotees. And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says the Lord accepts the attempts of his devotee as valuable, even if imperfect. Lord Chaitanya, even a dog, if he chants Hare Krishna without offense, is glorious. So, conclusion, being Kanishta Adhikari with struggles is not duplicity if you remain honest, humble, and faithful to Guru and Krishna. Duplicity is pretending to be pure while secretly serving ego. Non-duplicity is admitting your weakness but sincerely offering your effort to Krishna. Continue steady sadhana, avoid pretense, cultivate humility, and keep serving under guidance. The promise of Srimad Bhagavatam in this verse is that if we serve faithfully without deceit, the Lord Himself will eventually give Himself to you. This is the conclusion of this. Any comments or questions?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your class, Prabhuji. One thought is, I think that it shows the need for devotee association because devotees kind of help us to keep it real. If we get too far to the left or right, it's really good to have the right devotees around us to kind of help us. That's one thing.
Yeah, especially the association with mature devotees. Because sometimes association with immature devotees also uh, is better than the association with karmis, because at least a sincere devotee may go through stages of struggling with these different unwanted things, especially this pratishta problem. However, if they're sincere, Krishna will correct them, will expose the whole thing and knock down all the sources of the display will be dismantled. But in the association of mature devotees, one can actually gain some inspiration and also embrace almost like a culture of service. My Guru Maharaj also explains that, that we require, along with the culture of service, a culture of respect. And sometimes that's one of the things that in association of neophyte devotees, and that we find ourselves, this is mostly what we are, Eh, the propensity is to be very neglectful about acting respectfully towards other devotees. It's part of the kanishta thing. One of the symptoms of a kanishta is that we see the deities and we serve in the deities, but we can neglect the devotees left and right. We don't see the devotees. So the interrelationships of neophytes, a neophyte community, is filled with disrespects and disregard of other devotees. So Vaishnava apparat. So in the association of mature devotees, we learn the culture of Vaishnava etiquette. And with that, we can actually interact with each other. It's a culture of respect. And that's the part that's another part of serving without duplicity, you know? Yeah. You have questions?
You were drawing attention to the fact that I guess in most persons there's this aspirational aspect, aspiring to make one's mark on the world. Um, so I was contemplating a little your bringing up the point of.
You have to speak a little louder because the competition of that machine. You speak louder.
Yeah, I was contemplating this point that you made of cultivating humility. So it seems that it's absolutely essential to be cultivating humility, because otherwise certainly the aspirational tendency would be more prominent.
Yeah, yeah.
And one can see that there would be a conflict between the two.
Yeah.
One can see that would be quite a conflict. So so one could say, what would be the most important thing that would help a person to cultivate humility so that they can stay safe from that aspirational, more egotistical kind of aspiration?
Yeah, I think that comes to that instruction of one's intention, you know, because I've, I know I find myself, that there's that underlying aspiration to be someone, and then when you have the space to do things, and some things that are natural for you, and that you have some natural ability, then as soon as people recognize your natural abilities, one start to feel, okay, there's certain thing, and once one start to become recognized, then that's when you have to, at least I'm saying for myself, um, that's when I find myself, okay, I'm feeling good about it, but then if something is not in place to have that recognition, then I don't feel so good. So then, okay, what's happening in here? What's happening in here is that I am at the center. So my intention, I'm doing this not for the service, for the pleasure of Krishna, but it's for my aspiration. And that's not devotional service. So then is what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says, is hawk's tool. So then it's for Guru and Krishna. And that requires humility. I mean, to go through that, we have to, it's a practice like that. I am an instrument, a servant of my spiritual master. And the service of my spiritual master is my life. And then my aspiration is to actually sort of do that service, So, so it's like that set of mind that you go back into my intention is properly. Is for the glorification of my spiritual master. It's for his legacy. It's for his service that I'm doing this. And one has to constantly be reminded. I find myself, it's a constant thing. I think my spiritual, Srila Rupa Swami gave that instruction because it was very important. And I think it's an instruction that is very applicable to in this way or that way to most of us, to watch your intentions. Yeah, it's quite something. It's very subtle, and if you become comfortable with it, it's not very pleasant to actually interact when a devotee is acting with pride and being actually, going along, riding on that sort of recognition and space of control, and creating these displays, that are, it's not very pleasant, and inevitably is going to be disregarding and offending devotees, inevitably, just by that attitude. And it's not good for the devotee, it's not good for the community, it's not good, it's actually, it cannot be considered devotional service because it's not for the pleasure of Krishna. So it doesn't mean that the devotee is not sincere, but it's a dangerous path. It can actually undermine whatever advancement you could be achieving. Anyway, let's finish here. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.